Well, the presenters may have changed, but our program is just as strong as ever.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us at the 9th edition of the Dubai International Film Festival.
Now, time and time again, the Dubai International Film Festival has made history, and tonight's gala screening is no different.
It's the Middle Eastern premiere of the Saudi Arabian film Wadjda, and this is the first full-length feature to have been filmed entirely inside the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Now, what makes this film even more remarkable is the fact that it was directed by Saudi Arabia's first feature film director, Haifaa al-Mansour. We'll have an in-depth interview with her a little later on in the show.
And soon we'll be joined by a couple of film experts who will talk us through some of the challenges and victories achieved by the region's female movie makers. But of course, the reason that we're all here tonight is for the Middle Eastern premiere of Wadjda.
The film tells the story of a young girl's desire to purchase and ride a beautiful green bicycle in Saudi Arabia, something that her culture frowns upon. Let's take a look at it right now.
$800 غالي عليك.
Definitely a very important film, and one that moviegoers have been waiting to see since the start of the festival. So I think we're all excited to see how the premiere this evening goes. Now, Wadjda did make its international debut a few months ago at the Venice Film Festival to positive reviews. And as we mentioned earlier, it's the first feature film to have been created by a Saudi woman. But does the region still struggle to get female voices heard?
Now, joining us to talk us through the emergence of Arab film and some of the challenges facing female directors are Azza Al-Hassan, a Palestinian filmmaker and a jury member of the Muhur Arab Documentary Competition, and Marian Maysoon, the festival's director for the Film Society of Lincoln Center. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you all.
Thank you for being with us.
Now, day 4 of the Dubai International Film Festival, so much to look forward to. But in particular, one thing that we'd like to focus on is that, now speaking of gender equality, we'd like to believe that men and women share the same opportunities, outcomes, obligations and rights in almost all spheres of life today. But would you say that there is a lack of opportunity, especially for female filmmakers in today's world, starting with you, Haifaa?
But I think what's interesting is definitely, for example, in the Arab world, the past 10 years have seen a rise in the number of female filmmakers. So obviously women are out there, they're getting their opportunity and working on it. But in the end of the day, the whole world is still not fair to women's rights. Don't you agree?
Well, yes, and I would agree. It's interesting. One of the things I program in New York, we program a series called New Directors, New Films, and we take films from all over the world. We do not do quotas or anything like that, but it's amazing the amount of female filmmakers we have in any given year. Yet, and they get to great acclaim, great reviews on their films, but yet to find them making their second film or their third film, that's what becomes really, really difficult. And I'm talking worldwide. I mean, in the United States and in every country. And so I can imagine it's the same issues going on here. So while there are, women seem to be out there making films great numbers, but there's a long way to go, and especially in my mind, of getting the second and the third film made. I mean, the film tonight, I'm actually going to see it tonight for the first time, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I think it's great. And what would be even greater is when she makes her second feature film.
I mean, that's a big question, though, I think, to both of you. Why is there such a challenge when it comes to getting that second film out? I mean, if you're getting that acclaim, if you're getting that recognition, obviously a lot of attention on Haifaa al-Mansour this evening. Is she also going to have a challenge getting her second film made? What do you think, Wadjda?
Well, Haifaa is already a mother. So usually I think one of the reasons many women get to do their first film and then it becomes difficult to move on is because this is a very male-dominated industry. It doesn't have the infrastructure which other industries might have caught up with. Like, for example, having a nursery in festivals. Now there's a movement in Europe to ask festivals to have kindergartens so women can bring their children with them. I have my own child with me in this festival, for example. So yeah, no, the industry has not yet evolved to accommodate this, and they should, and I think,
This is an excellent point. I asked the same question at a panel we were having about a year and a half ago in New York, and the answer by a male moderator was, well, you know, they're usually home having children. He said it in a progressive way, but it was sort of outrageous, and you're absolutely right. It's just simple things like that. It's the fact that because women are having children, or having to take care of children because they seem to be the major caretakers, should not be the reason that they can't continue to make films. And it's just that, it's just the world has to like turn around to that perspective, I think, so to make it
And producers have to learn that women filmmakers can come to the set and have their kids with them, which I do.
Well, and it's interesting, and speaking of producers, I know particularly there's a new production company, I think it's called Tangerine, run by two American women, Ann Hubble, who actually is here in Dubai, and Amy Hubby, and they are looking to produce women filmmakers, and in fact they're looking at a lot of women in the Middle East to make films with them. And I think when you start to hopefully put together female producers who are out there getting the money and female filmmakers, that hopefully it's really going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. Well, Marian, as we will pick up this discussion right after the break. It's been really interesting so far, so do stay with us. After the break, we'll hear more about the emergence of Arab films and, of course, female filmmakers.
And we'll hear more from the director of Wadjda herself, Haifaa al-Mansour. Stay with us. Welcome back to Dubai One's coverage of the 9th Dubai International Film Festival.
We're coming to you live from Medina Arena at the gala screening of Saudi Arabia's first female-directed feature, Wadjda.
Joining us once more are Azal Hassan and Marian Maysoon. Thank you for staying with us, ladies. Now, we spoke a little bit about why we need female directors in our region, and over the 10 years we've seen the huge influx of female filmmakers and women in general getting into the creative side of filmmaking as such. But why exactly, if I was to ask you, what makes it so important to get the female voice out there, what would you say, Marian?
Well, I mean, I think everyone has their stories to tell, and I think women have been missing in that part of the storytelling process, is telling their stories. And I don't just mean stories, you know, for women, you know, I mean, but the stories that come from them. They can tell incredibly strong and powerful stories. So I think that's what makes it really necessary, and just the fact that they, as well as anybody else, can tell really powerful stories.
Yeah, no, exactly. In the end of the day, it's not an issue of getting a woman voice or a man voice. The point is, you want to have an image of a society, and you cannot have it if you do not have a woman image in it, which I think that's why Haifaa's film is now important, Wadjda, because you are seeing from Saudi Arabia an image coming through the eyes of a woman. And we cannot miss on that. We cannot live in a society that is only one-dimensional.
I mean, I guess carrying on from that, in terms of those stories that you're thinking of, are there any particular areas, and again, not specifically talking about women's interest, but stories that you think that are really lacking when it comes to getting the woman's perspective out there, Marian?
Well, it's hard to say, you know, exactly, because it's not as though, well, women can only tell a story about children or something like that. And in fact, I actually have been watching it in the video library, so, and I had to turn it off to come here. So I'm sorry to admit that I'm actually watching a film in pieces, but a film called Chaos. It's from Egypt.
Chaos Disorder.
Thank you. Chaos Disorder, and it's a really lovely looking film from what I've seen of it, and it's basically people in a village, various stories going on with people in a village and relationships, but it's people in this village, and it's sort of against the backdrop of what's been happening in Egypt, but that's really in the background, so it's an interesting way that the story is being told, and it's by a woman, I think her name is Nadine Khan, it's her first feature. And she's not necessarily telling a woman's story, she's telling the story of a village and of a group of people. And a man could tell that story too, but I think she's doing an incredibly good job of telling that particular story. So it's hard to say that there are particular stories that women have to tell, it's just that they have to be out there and telling them.
No, and I suppose if you're an artist who is using a medium to express yourself, like for example, I have a friend who's a writer, and she always writes male characters, and she says it liberates her because she can swear, for example. As a woman, she doesn't feel she can swear in the same way, but when she borrows a male voice, she's liberated. So the idea is who's behind the camera and not in front of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, definitely some insightful thoughts there. We're going to take a look now at the film of the evening, Wadjda. We've heard from the experts, and now let's hear from the woman herself.
Ilham Al-Hamadi caught up with Wadjda creator and Saudi pioneer Haifaa al-Mansour earlier today.
I watched Wadjda this morning, and it was a beautiful movie. Tell me, what is the reaction from Saudi Arabia been like?
Well, the film hasn't been shown in Saudi yet, so but it is film in Saudi in general are controversial. Some people will love them and some people will be against them. But I tried as much as possible to bring a touching story, like Butti said. It's a story about a girl who wants something passionately. It's about determination, it's about hard work, it's about a person who's trying to find their voice and place in society. So I hope people will enjoy the movie and will cry like you did. And
Excited.
Yeah. So it's very important to entertain people and touch them on personal level. So I hope the film will do that. And yeah, we're waiting for the release next year.
Inshallah, inshallah, it's going to be a success. Now, when you were working on this movie and the story, as you said, was it a story that attracted you, or were you trying to break barriers or highlight certain issues?
Of course, you want to make a film that is meaningful, and I always wanted like a co-production. So you want to talk about something that is from the culture and things that are interest like a wider audience. So, but the story started with a bike and a girl, and there was no story. And it took me really long to find the heart of the story and develop the character. And the first draft was really bleak. Like Wadjda was a totally different girl. She was like a victim and sad most of the time. She never argues, and she's the innocent, perfect girl. But it was very important to come to Dubai Film Festival and attend Interchange. They have a program there that is help writers find the voice and tone the film. And I went to Sundance Writers Lab also, and I talked to a lot of editors. And that is when the story changed, and it is very important, and I tell all the filmmakers, it's like don't be so married to your ideas. It is very important to take your time while you're writing a story. It's very important to be close to the character and give them life and let them be, because sometimes we dictate to our characters while we're writing, we want her to do that, we want her to do that, but it is very important to give them this life and wait and see the character, what the character does.
Now, Wadjda is the first feature film which is entirely filmed in Saudi Arabia. That must have been very challenging. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was difficult. But in Saudi Arabia, there is like a TV production that happens all the time. And it's very important for me was to build on systems that are already in place. Because it is very important for film and cinema to grow organically in a place like Saudi, where it is conservative and they still frown upon cinema and they don't want to like embrace it totally, people, I mean. So it is very important to build a system that is already exists and make use of what is in the culture. And that is how we filmed in Saudi. Sometimes I have to hide, of course, because Saudi is like, it's a segregated country. It's very important for me also to respect the culture and not to confront, as much as respect the culture and work within the boundaries that are given for me.
That was, of course, Haifaa al-Mansour, the director of Wadjda. It was very interesting, of course, to hear how she had to go through so many rewrites that were assisted by international film festivals like DIFF and Sundance. I'm definitely looking forward to it this evening. Thanks, Ilham. Well, after the break, we'll check in with Dina Butti, who is live on the red carpet.
And Mariam and Azza will give us some of their picks of films that you should watch. See you in a bit.
Welcome back. You're watching Dubai One's live coverage of the 9th Dubai International Film Festival.
With more than 161 films being packed into 1 week, it can be overwhelming to try and decide which ones you should watch.
Well, Marian and Azza are back to talk us through a few of their picks and to talk about the Arab cinema here in general. Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, Azza, directing it to you as a Palestinian filmmaker, obviously as an Arab filmmaker, how have you seen an evolution in the films in the region over the last 9 or 10 years that the festival obviously has been here?
Well, actually being here at the jury of the festival gave me an intense days of watching films where I got to feel what's happening. So it was very refreshing and nice. And I think what's very interesting is the films are becoming intensely more personal, which is something usually Arab culture could not let go and allow, you know, to go so much into your personal issues. But you can see that this is opening up and it's very refreshing. And what's also very interesting is although the Arab Spring is a theme, nevertheless, like you said in Nadine's film, it's at the backdrop, it's not at the front. So filmmakers are making a statement that our personal lives are more important than the general narrative, which is dictating how we should live as individuals. So I find this very interesting. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting what you said, because yesterday I moderated a panel on the success of Arab cinema, and we talked about various films, but we also talked about, especially in the West, in the United States, how a lot of times when we see a film, a fiction film from an Arab country, we think of it as a documentary, and the audiences are taking like all their cues from that as if, oh, this is what is really happening there, instead of being able to see these things as great stories. And I think what you're saying bears the fact that there's an improvement in this area, and the better the films get and the more people are able to tell their personal stories, the more I think that we in the West can also read it then as these are personal stories. These are beautiful stories being told by people, and it's not a quaint anthropological film about a region.
But also going into what you're saying, what's interesting is in the Arab world, usually it used to be that independent cinema was being produced by the West. Now, in the past 20 years, with the changes in technology, where cameras became available, like most of the documentaries here are shot by the filmmakers themselves. So in a way, they could do low budget and become liberated from having to constantly think of an imagined Western audience. So in a way, for the first time, they're doing films for their own societies, and I find that very refreshing.
And that's wonderfully refreshing, because it is this
idea. Sorry, just because we're almost out of time. I just love to get.
We'd obviously enjoying
this. This is great. Great discussion. I wish we did a little more time, just very quickly, just to round things off. For cinema lovers out there, are there any picks that you'd recommend people really check out, either at the festival or even after the festival?
Well, a few things that I've seen. I haven't seen that many things in the festival thus far, but I've seen When Mona Lisa Smiled, which is a lovely film, and Blind Intersections, I just saw this afternoon, another very interesting film, and of course the one I mentioned before, and I'm also very much looking forward
And just as one or two.
Well, I would have loved to say what I like, but I can't because.
Oh, the jury member. Okay, I understand. All the secrecy. We'll wait till after the film festival. We'll catch up with you.
Okay.
Thank you both so much for being with us on the show. It was a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now before we go, let's check in with Dina, Butti, who is live on the red carpet tonight. Dina, what's going on?
Thanks for checking in with me. Yes, the anticipation is building over here. We're talking a few minutes before the red carpet opens, and I'm not sure if you can see, but this is a really big turnout, especially with the paparazzi. I'd say the biggest turnout since the opening night with Life of Pi. It is, of course, for the screening, the highly anticipated screening of the Saudi film Wadjda, and there's a lot of firsts revolving around this film. I'm sure you've mentioned a few. The first feature film from Saudi Arabia, first director, female director from Saudi, all Saudi cast, and of course it was entirely filmed in Saudi. And what makes this film really impressive is that it's coming from a country where cinemas continue to be banned. Hopefully I'll be discussing that with Haifaa al-Mansour, the director of the film. I did manage to see her at the press conference this morning. She is a powerful and inspiring woman, known of course for breaking down barriers with her, what I'd say, controversial films. And another first, I think, for the Dubai Film Festival is that I've heard a rumor, I'm pretty sure it's true, that the entire cast of Wadjda is going to be coming here tonight. We are talking about 40 people. So I think my chances of catching one of these stars seems pretty good. It's a sold out show, and I've also heard that the green bicycle, famous in the film, might be rocking up on the red carpet. So hopefully I'll be seeing you guys in just a bit at 7:30 when we continue our coverage. See you till then.
Well, Dina, they're looking forward to the green bicycle, which we'll hopefully get to catch on the red carpet. Thank you so much for that, Dina. Well, our live coverage is about to take a short break as Dubai One cuts to Emirates News for their 7 p.m. bulletin, but stay with us.
Our coverage continues at 7:30 as we discuss some of the other Arab films at this year's festival with DIFF's Arab Program Director, Irfan Rashid.
We'll also bring you the inspiring story of one young director's journey to get his movie made and the role the Dubai International Film Festival had in making it. See you at 7:30.
Welcome back to our live coverage of the 9th Dubai International Film Festival. You're joining us alongside the gala screening of Saudi Arabian film Wadjda, a filmmaking milestone, and we're seeing the director right there in the window.
Now, Wadjda is just one of the 16 movies in competition for the Mahor Arab Feature Awards. As well as a trophy and recognition, the winner gets thousands of dollars in prize money.
The award is unique in its mandate to help promote filmmaking talent in the Arab world. Well, here to tell us more about this year's Arab film crop and DIFF's focus on nurturing young Arab talent is Irfan Rashid, a journalist, documentary filmmaker, and the director of the Dubai International Film Festival's Arab program. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me with you.
Pleasure. So looking at tonight's big screening, of course, we have director Haifaa al-Mansour on the red carpet. Tell me about Wadjda and why it's an important film at this year's festival.
It's important for so many reasons. It's important because it is done by Haifaa al-Mansour, a very courageous and talented director, a woman who fought for her work for many years to make her first feature film. And the film is important because it talks about the freedom, about the rights of a citizen to have whatever she wants. We are talking about a young daughter, 12 or 13 years old. She wants to ride a bicycle. A very simple thing, but there are so many limited things which limit her to have that bicycle. So, and it's important because it's a first feature film shooted in Riyadh, a first feature film done by a woman, Saudi woman director in Riyadh, a country as Haifaa al-Mansour herself said this morning, there's no cinema. We are a small country for cinema, but we have a huge possibility to make cinema and to show people our stories and to tell our life, to show our life to the world.
Now, the first feature film, the first film to be shot entirely in Saudi. What do you think this will do to the movie industry in Saudi Arabia, which doesn't almost exist at the moment?
There is a movie industry, but it is not industry like Egypt or Algeria or Tunisia or Morocco or even Jordania. There are so many talented directors. They are working since so many years. There is Abdallah al-Muhaysin is the decan of the Saudi directors, and there are so many young people who does in these 10 years documentaries and short films, and they are really talented, and we watch them and their films in Gulf Film Festival, in Dubai Film Festival, in other festivals. So there are the first, how you can say, first steps, and we can reach to a big possibility, especially there are the governmental support and TV support and the private sector support.
Absolutely. Now, just sorry to cut you off there, Mr. Arfan. We hear that our reporter Dina does in fact have someone there on the red carpet from the film, from of course the world premiere of, or the Middle East premiere of Wadjda. Dina, over to you.
Hey guys, I have Roman here with me, one of the producers from Wadjda. I'm very interested because he is German. So what happened? You got a call from Haifaa one day and she told you, oh, we have this Saudi story for you guys and come film in Saudi. How did you react to that?
Well, first of all, we were like, hello, more unsolicited material, but it was so good that it actually convinced us. I think if we were American, we wouldn't have read the screenplay, but we're German, so we just did it. And we fell in love with it. Then we met with Haifaa in person. We fell in love with it. And then we went to Saudi Arabia, which was so exciting for us because we had never been. I never spoke to anyone who had ever been. So for us, it was an outlandish experience. It was amazing.
So how did it feel filming in a foreign language and in a foreign country? There must have been a ton of obstacles which you've never experienced before.
Absolutely, but with every production you have tons of obstacles that you have never experienced before. We have worked around the globe in different countries. We have worked in the United States, we have worked in Palestine, so we worked in Saudi Arabia. At the end of the day, you make a film, and that always has its specific challenges. But it was actually an amazing experience.
Thank you so much. All the best of luck to you. Thank you for joining us. Back to you, Omar and Ash. I'll see you guys in a bit.
See you, Dina. Well, that's very exciting. Of course, Dina was catching up with the producer on Wadjda, German producer, and some very interesting comments there. Back to you, Mr. Arfan. Thank you very much, of course, for being with us. I wanted to talk a little bit about the themes of this year's festival when it comes to Arab films. We're looking at Wadjda, a very personal story, a very small story in many cases about this girl and her desire for a bicycle. Last year's festival was really marked by Arab Spring stories.
Exactly.
What stories do you think, what themes rather, are marking this festival?
Yeah, last year we had a very big and strong documentary program because the Arab revolutions, I keen not to call them spring because spring is a season and passes, but those revolutions gave us a new geography of the cinema, of policy in the Arab world. Last year, the documentary films talked about the squares, Tahrir squares. This year, our film, feature and documentary, they talks about the side streets of Square Tahrir. They went to look what people for this revolution has been done, their life, their dreams, and their expectation from those revolutions. So we are going to talk about people life, people daily life, and people aspiration for the future. There's no a theme, one theme for the festival.
But a lot more personal stories this year,
yeah,
it seems. Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot more.
Well, sorry, Arfan, we'll just have to stop you there. It's time for a break. We'll be right back. We'll carry on this very interesting discussion, so stay with us. Thank you.
After the break, we will continue our conversation with Irfan about developing Arab filmmakers.
Plus, we'll bring you the inspiring story of a filmmaker's journey to get his movie made. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our live coverage of the Dubai International Film Festival. And lucky for me, I'm here on the red carpet with the star of the night, the director of Wadjda. Now, I am very curious. What is it that made you want to be a director? You just woke up one morning, decided, new goal, new occupation?
Exactly. That is
I really love film. I really love film, and I really wanted to be true to myself and do something that really I love, away from every constraint and every cultural expectation. So I started making shorts, and then this.
So how did the story come about? Is it actually based on any real events, true events?
No, not really. The story started with a bike and a girl, and everything in between was missing. And it took it took long to stitch the story and structure it and everything. But writing is a very I find writing is a difficult process, but is a rewarding one. And writing Wadjda took a while, but I'm glad to see people reacting well to the film, and I hope today is the Middle Eastern premiere, so I'm a little nervous coming home with the film after premiering everywhere in the world. I hope just people see what I tried to do. And
well, it's already received amazing reviews. Now, I'm wondering though, I know cinemas are banned in Saudi Arabia, and I'm wondering, how are you going to be distributing it in Saudi? Is that a possibility?
Of course, it's a possibility. We have lots of DVD. Saudi Arabia is the biggest place for DVD rentals and DVD sales, and TV is big in Saudi. So, and we have Rotana, and Rotana has been really supportive, embracing the film and pushing for it and distributing it in the Middle East, and definitely Saudi Arabia will be part of it.
Wonderful. So lastly, what do you hope that audiences will gain tonight from the film?
Just enjoy the film and invest in that little girl's journey. And after all, we're trying to entertain, so I hope they just see what we're trying to do. I don't know, enjoy the story.
Okay, thank you so much, and good luck. Thank you so much for stopping by. I know you're in demand. There's tons of cameras here for you. Take care. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Dina. Dina, they're catching up with the director of the movie Wadjda, which is premiering tonight, Haifaa al-Mansour.
Absolutely. Dina getting all the stars as usual. Thanks, Dina. Now, we are still here, of course, with the Arab Program Director of DIFF, Mr. Irfan Rashid. Thank you very much for staying with us. Bringing it back to you, one thing I wanted to talk about, as a program director and as the festival which helps to grow Arab cinema, what kind of development you've seen and how important the festival's work is in really cultivating that atmosphere for Arab filmmakers.
Yeah, looking to the quantity and the quality of the films which we received this year, I'm talking about 700 films between short and feature and documentary. That means that there is a very good situation, and we had a very good year this year, but there is a crescendo of the situation of Arabic cinema. So I think we are on the good way, and maybe our next 10th anniversary will be more and more than this year.
Now, of course, there are about 80 Arab films being featured this year, 17 of which are purely Gulf films, which we're extremely excited about. Tell us a little about how DIFF has grown over the years, especially with regard to the kind of entries that are coming in.
Okay. DIFF is, I consider, I always repeat this, maybe so many people hear me telling this, DIFF is the house of Arabic cinema and Arabic cineasts. We have the only festival in the world who has 3 competitions for the Arabic cinema, feature, documentary, and short. Besides that, we have the Arabian Nights Cinema and Gulf Voices and Mohr Khaliji, Gulf Mohr. So in this case, we are part of Arabic cinema. Arabic cinema is getting strong and strong in this festival. In a situation like that, you should only be proud that we are giving the possibility to our audience, our public, to view about 80 films. Now, I'm not sure 80 or 82 films, but we are presenting 80 talents as directors. Besides them, we are presenting a huge quantity of actors, of technicians, of DOPs, or all the specialties in the cinema. So we are there.
Okay,
we are there to,
we made it.
talk about industry.
All right, I guess obviously it's great to see that we are there. It's obviously you mentioned the 700 submissions, really a massive growth when it comes to the festival. One thing I also want to ask, I guess following on from that, for the 10th year, going forward for cinema here in the region, what are some of the obstacles that we still have, and what more do you think that can be done within forums like the film festival to really help push us forward, to take that next step?
We will continue our work. As I told you before the beginning, we will have our first meeting for the next year on the 17th of
so right afterwards.
The day after, not in the morning.
Oh, sorry, Arfan, just to cut you off there, I'm very sorry. I understand that Dina, I think, is on the red carpet with some of the casts of the film. Dina, over to you. What do you have?
Hey guys, yeah, I have two of the main stars of the film. This is really exciting. Where's your bicycle?
I don't know.
I thought it was going to be here on the red carpet with you guys. Now, was this your first acting experience, Abdurrahman?
Yeah, but I've been into a few photograph ones, and well, actually, this is my first long film. I've been to short ones before, which was was one for donating blood.
Oh, but is this your first time on the red carpet? Like, I want to know how you guys actually got the role on this film.
Yeah, this is my first time on the red carpet, and I'm really excited to see it. Yeah.
So how did you actually get the roles in the film, both of you? How were you selected?
I got selected by the donating blood commercial. By the donating blood commercial, and it was a few years ago, actually, 4 or 5 years. And the special part about it, there was no talking; it was all sign language.
Oh, okay. So what was it like actually making the movie? Did you have fun?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. You had a good time?
Yes.
Okay. So how about you? What was your experience like? I heard something about you stealing the role from your cousin. Is that true?
I didn't actually steal it, because I wish I did. But because Haifaa and my aunt, they're really close friends, so they chose my cousin. But since he doesn't know Arabic much, so the role came to me.
All right, well, you see, guys, Arabic does come in handy. Congratulations to both of you. I hope you enjoy the red carpet tonight. As you can see, guys, all the stars, and they were not lying, by the way. There's something like 40 people here from Wadjda here tonight. Really wild here on the red carpet. Back to you guys, Omar and Ash.
Thanks, Dina. Yes, it definitely looks like it's a full house on the red carpet, and of course, as usual, getting all the stars. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity just before we go into break to thank Arfan Rashid, the director of the Arabic program here at the festival, obviously for being with us. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. And it is time now for a break. After the break, we'll tell you about Enjaaz, a DIFF grant that has helped dozens of filmmakers get their films made.
Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to the Dubai International Film Festival, live from the red carpet.
Now, nurturing young regional film talent has been the very core message of this year's festival since its onset 9 years ago.
And one of the constant challenges for any movie maker in the region is access to funding.
That's where Enjaaz steps in, providing as much as $100,000 to support funding for post-production.
Well, joining us now to tell us about their stories and the crucial role that Enjaaz plays in getting films made are Vida Rizq, a consultant for Enjaaz, and al-Mansour, the director of Line of Sight and one of the recipients of the Enjaaz grant. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for
Welcome.
having us here. Thanks.
Pleasure. Vida, I'd love to direct the first question to you. Looking at Enjaaz, the work they do, tell me a little bit about their role, obviously, in getting films made, helping that happen, and the criteria they look at when it comes to choosing your films.
So the role we play is quite often filmmakers start their films and then at the very end they'd like to improve the sound or the picture quality, or they need to spend a bit more time in the editing room and they just need some post-production support. And so we come in at that point and we have a selection process that means the director and the producer need to be Arabs, so that's some very important criteria. And the story needs to be generally about the Arab world. And if you meet those two criteria, then people apply to Enjaaz towards the end of the process. And they've got to really prove that they have something in the making. So we insist that they send perhaps a half-hour rough cut of their movie. And so we see a lot of rough cuts, a lot of scripts, a lot of information, and it's amazing what happens between the rough cut and by the time then the movie's finished.
Now, Asil, you're the recipient of Enjaaz, and as an aspiring, as a young upcoming filmmaker, how does an initiative like this really help boost your films?
To be honest with you, without such an initiative, it would be really hard to be able to accomplish, to finish a film. I mean, in our case, in Line of Sight, we have applied to Enjaaz when we had kind of a 30, 40-minute cut. But we had depleted all the funds that we had at that time. And we needed to spend more time in the editing room. That basically translates to cost. But then after that, there's a lot of costs that we have to take care of, be it the music, the sound edit, the sound design, color correction, the mastering. And in order to take all of these steps to have the film that you really like to have, you need a strong entity to support you, and this is where Enjaaz came in place and really supported us to take that step further and finish the film the way we think is perfect for the film.
Now, I mean, the film is screening at this year's festival, obviously a great success in that way. I mean, what kind of reaction have you heard thus far to the film at this year's festival?
Well, the thing is, the film is in competition, in the Mohor Arab competition. It hasn't screened yet. The premiere is going to be on Friday and Saturday.
All right, well, we'll have to go down there and watch it.
But actually, speaking of reactions, we have, which is one of the very interesting things with regards to Enjaaz support, because it's not only about the fund, it's about the connections they give you, it's about the consultancy, the help. We were able actually to land a deal with an exhibitor. So the film after Enjaaz, after DIFF, in January, it will be screened in cinemas in the UAE, which is a major success for us beyond the scope of the festival.
Well, definitely, we're all looking forward to your piece, and we wish you all the very best for it. Now, coming back to you, Wadjda, I mean, Enjaaz is definitely a dream come true for a lot of aspiring filmmakers out there, and is definitely a massive platform in promoting filmmaking in this part of the world. So how many films have you helped so far in terms of the funding?
We're really close to 50.
Oh.
So it's up to 47. The program started, it's in the third cycle, the third year of 2 cycles every year. And we're close to 50 movies that have been supported. It's 47, of which 16 are in the program this year. Last year we had about 20 in the program. So it really makes a difference. And the additional support that actually it's coming from the Dubai International Film Festival means that there's also a platform to screen the film, to get it noticed, to get it sold, distributed. And this, you know, Asil's story is a brilliant success story, because one of the shortcomings is that they don't get exhibited in the cinemas quite a lot of the time. And it's fantastic that an independent movie is actually going to get proper distribution.
Absolutely, no, that is definitely a challenge. I mean, as someone obviously who is a regional filmmaker looking to get your voice heard, and it's going to be great that it's going to be screening in regular cinemas. I guess, how difficult is it in terms, as a filmmaker, to look at making a profit on films, getting your movie out there, and also in terms of off the back of this film, do you foresee it being a challenge making your next film? Are you going to have the same sort of challenges when it comes to the budget?
I mean, it's a challenge that we all face as filmmakers in the entire world, basically. I mean, yeah, once you write your script, once you're ready to start producing the film, you have to start looking for funding, which is not an easy step anywhere in the world. In our region, it's a little bit more difficult because there are we still have a few steps to go ahead in breaking the barrier between us and the cinemas. The cinemas are mostly conquered by Hollywood films. So in order for us to be able to exhibit, we have to either show that we're as good as it takes to compete with them, or show a different value to the entire value chain of the exhibitors. Now, until we're able to do that, it will be challenging to get an actual return on investment that will help investors look for investing further films, be it for the same filmmaker or other filmmakers. But I think in the past 3-4 years, things are progressing in the right direction. And of course, initiatives like the initiative supported by Dubai Film Festival, they're really helping the films do that, because you need that break at the beginning without expecting the ROI.
Absolutely. Asil, Wadjda, thank you so much for taking the time. A big congratulations, of course, to you for your film screening and for the, I guess, the further screenings after the festival. Wadjda, thank you very much, of course, for helping making films like this possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, tonight's red carpet is just about to be rolled up. Lots to look
Indeed,
forward
it is.
to.
We're wrapping up the evening, but before we go, we want to remind you to check out DIFF's website for a full roundup of all the movies playing here. Now, on your screen now, you can see selections of films playing tomorrow that we think you might enjoy.
Well, you certainly are spoiled for choice in this year's festivities, so stay tuned for more.
Absolutely. Now, make sure to tune in tomorrow when we'll shift our focus from the Middle East to the Far East with a gala screening of Chinese epic Back to 1942. We'll also be featuring interviews with a couple of Far Eastern masters, Takashi Miike from Japan and Chung Jung-ji from Taiwan.
Ah, I like the way you pronounced it. It's
Well,
quite fascinating. But the curtain's now closing on tonight's program. See you back here tomorrow evening. Have a good night.
Good night.